Hello, in this episode I have a guest. I will interview Louis from PentesterLab, and he has an incredible experience because as a creator of PentesterLab, he has insight into what problems the people face, what challenges are easy, what are difficult, where people get stuck, and we all, me and you, we can use this knowledge to basically speed up our learning journey. So, hello, Louis. Thank you so much for joining me today. And can you please tell people who don't know you maybe what is your background and how did you get to the point you're currently at?
Okay. So my name is Louis. I'm the founder, CEO of PentesterLab. So I started by going to university and doing an engineering degree in computer architecture. Then at the same time, I did a master in security back in France. Then I was lucky enough to get an internship doing some Windows kernel programming. After that, I got a job starting as a security consultant, moved to Australia, became like a pen tester, and then code review, and then AppSec. And at the same time, I start doing like training at conferences. And I had all this amazing content that I created for the training. And I was only using them like once or twice a year. So I decided to launch PentesterLab. And the rest is history, I guess.
The rest is history. Even for me, PentesterLab was one of the first resources I used for learning. And I must admit, I haven't logged in there for a while, but my profile, I believe, at least from the early days, I have a lot of the flags. So definitely thank you for this. These days, do you even have the time to hack for fun, or do you mostly spend time on PentesterLab?
So PentesterLab is still like a really small business. And I'm lucky enough, or I force myself to keep it in a position where I can still be doing some hacking, because that's what I'm really passionate about. As much as it's cool to manage young people hacking or other people hacking, I like to do code review, pen test, and things like that. I don't pen test for clients, but I like to do like vulnerability research, find bugs, and things like that.
What are your favorite bug classes?
I don't really have like a favorite bug classes. I like complexity. I like details. I like things where I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. That's really what interests me. So you can have like boring bug classes with amazing bugs, or boring, amazing bug classes, but like the exploit is really, really interesting. Yeah. I like the details, yeah.
Yeah, I think all of us that like do CTFs, do some labs, we all like the edge cases where it's really, really difficult and it really shouldn't work, but it does work after all. I think it's definitely, and especially it's fun when it happens in real life as well. Then it's super, super satisfying.
Exactly.
How about from the creator of lab standpoint? Which bug classes are fun to create labs, so you could just, spend a few hours and you have the lab ready? And on the other hand, which are super hard, where you like have to spend a lot of time to do the whole setup to create the lab.
So little labs where it's like a simple bugs or just like a CV are pretty easy to create, because for a CV, you just can like find the Docker container with the vulnerable version. What is really hard to create is labs around auth and SAML, like all these protocol where you have like a lot of little moving pieces and you need to have them just right. Especially since I'm trying to get labs where you only have one bug. So it's really easy to have like a lab with 20 bugs, but only one bug and one way to exploit it. It's a lot harder.
How does the infrastructure work? Is it like Kubernetes under the hood, or how does it work?
Just some Docker and like some magic around it. And yeah.
Okay. What do you do when there's like an RCE and you have to make sure that one user does not affect other users?
Oh, it's just like locked down or at the Docker level. Yeah.
Do you have separate containers for separate users?
Yeah.
Okay. I imagine this. When I think of creating labs, because also we do as a CTF team, we also do, even this weekend, we organized on-site finals. So I do sometimes create labs. And two like challenges are how to make sure that different users do not affect each other. Of course, you can just spin up instances for each user. And when you have an RCE, we are forced to do this, so we do it. But also, like, you don't want to do it for a bug class if you don't need it, because, it generates costs.
Yeah.
So this is one challenge. And also the other challenge is the client-side bugs, where you need the interaction from the user. I think, do you use headless browsers when you have a client-side?
Yes. a lot of Puppeteer and historically a bit of Phantom.js as well.
Yeah.
And all of that is in AWS, so in Lambda. So this way it's pretty isolated from everything else.
Yeah, but for me, it's still like, I usually just copy paste some code of the Chromium with different Chromium options, which I admit I don't understand 100%. And I'm worried if I won't use the vulnerable Chrome version and be vulnerable this way. But from my perspective, when I created labs, the easiest ones are the ones where it's like a server-side bug that does not affect other users, like a file read.
Yeah, that's why, for example, auth, you need both all the moving pieces, but also you need the client side, like the fake client visiting everything and with the right redirect and everything like that. So it's challenging, but it's good fun. Yeah,
for sure. How do you, these days, after you've modeled so many bugs, so many labs, how do you still find ideas for new labs?
Research. It's really easy to create a lot of labs. What is really hard is to create the right labs, the right amount of labs and keep people learning. And that's a big part of what I do is curation, like looking at CVs, like probably like 50 to 100 CVs a week, looking at, I have a bit of automation around that, looking at bug bounty reports, looking at research, looking at all these things and trying to feel like, okay, this is new or this is like a variation of something and this variation matters.
Okay. Once you have the CVE, what's the process? If there's no public exploit, of course, what's the process to finding out what is the bug?
So you get the vulnerable version, you get the patch version based on the CVE information. You do a diff, and then you try to find the bug and exploit it.
Yeah. What do you do because some companies, when they commit a fix, the commit will have like fix, security bug, SSRF, whatever. But some will intentionally name commits, like or have the commit message that does not say it's a vulnerability. What are your top tips for finding out which commits are sort of hidden vulnerability fixes?
I think the main thing is to really carefully read the advisory. Because in every advisory, you got some tiny details that tell you like what is going wrong. And then it's just like spending time reading source code and trying.
Okay. How about, because I know that it's the easiest when the company publishes tests and the test sometimes has the exact payload. Are there more tricks similar to this one that I don't know about maybe?
So test cases really, really help with that. Comments in source code, changes looking at some function. For example, a lot of vulnerabilities nowadays are around like people making mistakes around using substring to compare things, or they're missing a check, so they're adding a if statement, or they're modifying like a check somewhere, and then it's just a lot of times.
A lot
of times. Like the test cases is good, but often like you need to be lucky to or you need someone to have written the test cases and
it's I don't say it's common, but when it is, it's very satisfying.
Definitely.
And I also saw some people. There was one case, one CTF task where I spent a lot of time on something, and it was an XSS-based task. And one of my friends just took a payload from Don't Purify test cases, and it works straight away. And it was like such a long payload, and I was like, "How did you come up with this?" And I was, I just copied it from Don't Purify.
Like good old luck sometimes as well.
Well, it wasn't luck; it was his skill and his thinking that he came up with this idea, and I didn't. But it was funny. You said you have the automation around CVEs.
Yeah.
What is this?
Or more like you get like a script, you give it like the Git repository, the patch version, the vulnerable version, and you get like all the diff automatically and things like that. So that way you don't have to do all that manually. It's probably like just like 5 or 10 Git commands, but at least it's done. Yeah.
Okay. So then you still have to like see yourself. Okay. I thought you like automatically find out which CVs are worth.
I wish I had that. So I tried to get that output from the diff to ChatGPT, for example. It's terrible. Like giving it like the advisory and the patch, ChatGPT is just like, creating like weird file names and things like that and making up things. So
it doesn't really work.
Not yet.
No. Do you have any other automations or tools that help you in the process?
I got a bit of like rules around semgrepes and things like that to like look at code bases, but for that part, not yet. I need to spend more time. It's always the balance between like more automation, less automation, and
Yeah, and then when you create the automation, you have to invest more time to maintain the automation.
Exactly.
That's one of the reasons why I don't maintain any automations, and I decided I'm a manual hacker and I live with it because, I had some tools in the past and it was consuming more time than actually saving.
Yeah.
How about authentication related bugs? Because we will jump into particular bug cases. Because I know you have a lot of labs on JWT and SAML. And the question is, what are the attacks where you have to use custom tooling? Because we have the tools in Burp, we have extensions, we have some other tools. But are there some attacks that require us to set up something on our own?
For SAML Raider is pretty good. But some exploitation requires you are not supported by SAML Raider. Basically, like the signature wrapping attacks, not all of them are in SAML Raider. So sometimes you need to write your own script. It's not that complicated. It's a bit of XML parsing and rearranging information. For JWT, I haven't looked at JWT extension because I write my own tool, and that's why. Yeah, that's why I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to teach people as well. It's good to rely on tool when you want to be fast, when you want to be accurate as well. But most of the time, what you want to do, especially when you're learning, is learning to write your own tool. It may look like a waste of time at the start, and it may be. But at one point, you're going to end up like, okay, this protocol, these things, there is no tool for it. And if you don't know how to write your own tool, you're just going to be stuck forever. Yeah. And you're going to have to wait for someone to write the tool for you, which isn't great. And for example, there's a tool, JWT tool, I think, that a lot of people use to attack JWT.
Yeah.
It was written by someone who I don't know if it's still like a PentesterLab customer.
Yeah.
And all the tools were based on the labs, and I think that's something I'm really proud of.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I remember I have my own repo with PentesterLab sourced somewhere. It's private, obviously. And I remember there were like different Python scripts for like JWT, something. I remember it was a 2-digit number.
Yeah.
So actually you can just probably compile all this to one good tool, add some more, and it's probably
exactly. And the learning you have from that, like being able to automate, like sending requests, doing like a bit of crypto, like HMAC, signature, and things like that. That's going to always be valuable. Like once you hit that level where like, oh, there is no tool to do that. I need to write my own.
Yeah. Which is your language of choice these days if you have to write a tool?
Oh, Ruby.
Always
has been, always will be. Like everyone is different. And I think I made a video on that actually. I'm not recommending a language to a person. I'm telling people like, okay, try a few and see how it goes. My brain with Ruby just work. Magic. Other people, I don't know why, Python work for them.
Yeah.
You have to find the one that work for you. And once you got that one, like go like really hard on it and get really, really good at it. Yeah. And for me, I spent too much time on Ruby, so I can't go back.
I don't use it a lot, but it was one of the first languages where I learned to create a web application because I had it at the university. And I really liked it back then to have like different controllers because it would generate the whole application, all of files.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Rails, obviously. And this year, I think I created the CTF challenge in Go. But I think last year I used Ruby. I used Rails for it because I just liked it. But then there are so many files if you generate the app with Rails that I'm like, and I didn't touch most of them. Then I'm a bit afraid of what is in my application.
Yeah, that's a trade-off. You get a lot for free, but you get a lot for free, so you don't never necessarily know what the attack surface is. But yeah, Rails is really good for productivity.
Yeah. What are some hacking tools for Rails? Because hacking tips for Rails. I mean, because one of the things I know it does automatically, and developers may not know about it, is it adds the .json route implicitly. What other tricks you commonly use with Rails?
So a lot of people forget to put authentication properly, so authorization properly. So I think it's always worth, like when you look at a Rails application, to compare all the authorization check, because often people will put it for like the show for the index, but they will forget to put it in place for update or edit or delete. Mass assignment is a good example as well, where you can add parameter to the HTTP request, and this parameter may be mapped to the object, to the underlying object. So you use, for example, you add admin equals 1 in the URL or in the post request, in the body of the request, and then you become admin when you create an account.
Yeah.
A lot of things, but what else? Rails removed XML processing by default a while back. Yeah, mostly around authorization. Yeah, I think authentication is most of the time handled by device, which is pretty good.
Yeah. There was a bug in device last year in James Cadell research. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Was it really exploitable in the wild?
I think it was. Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't.
You need the right timing and everything, but yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Have you played with this year's research from guys from Portswigger?
Not yet. Not yet. I need to look. Right now, I'm deep diving into source code review and creating I created already a big training, but trying to improve it. So I don't do as much hacking. I do a lot of code review.
Okay. What are some your best code review tips that you give to people?
Read the source code. People just grab, and then they say I suck at code review. I'm are you actually reading code? And most of the time people are actually no, I'm just grabbing and looking at result, and that's not what code review is about. Are you a
sources to sync or sync to sources type of reviewer?
I mostly use different approach, not necessarily like that, source to sync or sync. I like to look at sync first, but I'm more around looking at differences, comparing two code bases doing the same thing, looking at one functionality in depth and things like that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know there is no one definitive answer to this question. I wouldn't give a definitive answer myself, but I still ask it to see, because people often expect there's just one good way to do something.
No, programming, find the way that works for you.
Yeah. What do you say to people that ask another very common question is, do you need to be able to code to be a hacker?
That's a very good question. I think you don't have to, but oh my God, you're missing something.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing. You write something and bang, you ran it, and the computer does whatever you tell it to do. It's amazing. You don't need it to be a hacker, but you're missing on something amazing. It's you got this amazing part of computer science and you're not doing it. And it's you don't need to be the best programmer in the world, but you need to code just because it's amazing feeling.
It's also there are some things that you see when you just use the code as a developer that I think would be hard to pick up just with black box approach all the time. I'm actually planning to just create my own SAML and SSO servers to control absolutely everything and be able to do some attacks that I couldn't do with existing IDPs. So I'm planning to do it, but because I know also I will probably find out some ideas for attacks that I don't know about them yet. So I definitely want to do it.
That's why you need to read code as well instead of grepping, because you want to find those unknowns, things you wouldn't think of.
Yeah.
And that's where the bugs are. If you're doing hard targets or bug bounty on things that a lot of people have tested, sure, everyone runs SAML Raider three times and things like that. So you need to come up with your own thing, right?
Yeah. If you are supposed to create a new web application from scratch, do you use a lot of AI for reproducing some vulnerability? Do you use a lot of AI to support you writing the code?
A little bit for the boilerplating part, getting the things to work together. But most of the time I need to write. The interesting part I write myself because
Okay. So how do you use it to boilerplate?
Mostly like to create I need a simple web application in Python and give me like the structure, and I got everything working. Or if I come across an error message, like.
So you asked ChatGPT for it or something else? Have you tried Cursor?
Not yet.
I haven't either, but it sounds really good.
Yeah,
This Copilot, but I'm the same. I just ask ChatGPT, although my conversations are quite long with ChatGPT, because then I ask it to do something more and they change it, and it's actually not bad, especially for... There is some point where it starts to get so complex, it does hallucinate a bit, or maybe not hallucinate, but just make mistakes. But for starting, it's definitely nice.
Yeah, it definitely hallucinates on CV. I can tell you that. Like creating CV numbers out of thin air. I'm looking for a bug in that. With that, do you remember? Like there is this bug that I read about, 10 years ago, and I can't find it. And I asked ChatGPT to try to find it for me and couldn't find it. And ChatGPT made up 10 different CVs, and all of them were wrong. So.
Oh, that's interesting. I would think this is the perfect use case for it.
Exactly, but no.
Yeah. Well, I think for me as a manual hacker, it's not bad. I mean, it's inevitable that AI will be used for hacking, and probably hacking agents or hacking assistant or whatever will happen at some point. But I'm not complaining if it's a bit slow.
That's why you need more code review.
Yeah. What do you think are bug classes that are so complex that even the hacking agents of the future will not be able to find the bugs?
That's a good question. I think you need to look at what automated scanner don't find today.
Yeah.
Like all the crypto attacks, all the interactions between components, all of those things where you ever need to know really small details that you can only have from code review, or things where you need to aggregate a lot of different things, like chaining vulnerabilities, for example, will be another one where the AI may struggle a bit more than human. But
yeah, I don't think we will lack work anytime soon.
No.
From learning or from observing different people learning, what are the most common problems that people face?
The second one first. The second one is people don't read error messages. People don't read error messages. Trust me on that. They just see an error and think it doesn't work.
Okay.
Or people assume when there is an error, it means it didn't work. Let's say you're exploiting a pickle serialization bug. At one point, the application will crash because you send an object that is not the right object.
Yeah.
But the code execution happens before that. And people see the error message and say okay, that didn't work. The first one is a lot of people don't know what a public IP address is. And that's because a lot of training environment are using a jump host where you're in the same private network as the target. But when you're attacking real target on the internet, you need an IP address, or you need to use ngrok and things like that. And a lot of people email support or email me saying that doesn't work, but they're using a private IP address for the connect back and things like that.
I remember in the early days, you had some labs as virtual machines.
Yeah.
And I remember also struggling. It was I didn't even know networking back then. Struggling to know on which IP address I can access the web app that's inside the VM and I can access outside the VM. I remember having problems with this, and it's a hard topic for general, but
I think the problem is that people learn one way, and then they don't realize that that's not what they should be using when they go on a hard target, on a real target on the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are missing bugs because they're just I don't have a connect back. But because you put your private IP address, so it's never going to happen. And,
where do you think people can learn these things? Because they are not directly related to any vulnerability. Where do you think someone can learn about this stuff?
So that's very interesting. Back in the day, we were learning that because that's the only way we could install a mail server, an HTTP server at home, or a DNS server. But nowadays, everything is services online, so you don't need that knowledge as much. I think you need to learn as you go, and just go on, learn about public and private IP address. It's going to take an hour, but you may find more bugs or not miss bugs at least.
Yeah, this is the hard part, because when you have a problem, you know that you need to look for the solution for the problem. But in the case you gave the example with somebody not getting the connect back from the server, they may not be aware they have the problem, and they may not find out until a few years later.
Yeah.
So this is the hard part, no?
But it's a bit easier with Burp, a collaborator now,
Yeah,
so
of
people
course.
don't have that problem as much. But
Yeah. Well, you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but back in the day, there were way fewer resources, but also I guess the entry barrier was lower. Now I think there's so many resources that it might be problematic to know which ones are the good ones. So how do you think people have to navigate this?
you need to, it depends where you're at in your journey as well. It's easier and easier to find the good resources once you know what you're looking for. At the beginning, I think you need to find somewhere where you have like good content and curation, so you don't like end up doing the same thing again and again and again. That's one thing that is hard with creating content for PentesterLab, is not repeating myself like same lab again and again with 50 variations of the same thing, but also trying to make it harder and harder, but not like big steps, like just small steps, small steps all the time. I think the important things when you're learning, and I did like a keynote on that, is you don't want, so what people do usually, they say, okay, I'm going to be beginner at Linux, beginner at Windows, beginner at web, beginner at reversing. Then once they got this basic knowledge, they move to medium, like intermediate web, intermediate Linux, intermediate Windows. And but too hard to do all those things.
Yeah.
What you need to do is pick one. Get really good at Windows, or get really good at Linux, or get really good at reversing, whatever. And like early on, pick something and get really, really good at that thing. And in that thing, take something that is even smaller and get even better at that thing. Like Tomcat or MySQL or whatever, and get really, really good at that thing. Because the lesson you're going to learn, like the hard lesson, like when you learn hard things, then you can reproduce that on all the other things.
Yeah.
And because that last part, like getting really, really good at something, is that's why you do your own research. You can present the research, and you are not using someone else's tool. You are not using or following someone else's research. You are doing your own, and that's probably the hardest part. And once you know how to do that, it's really easy to replicate that to other technologies.
Yeah, that's really, really smart. And
thanks.
Yeah, because it's impossible at some point to learn everything, and also when you get to a certain level, once you're a beginner, there are so many resources everywhere. But once you get intermediate or advanced, it gets harder and harder. So how to still keep learning new things if we are more advanced at something?
I think you need to look at things that are around the task you want to achieve that will help you go deeper or be faster.
Yeah.
Let's say you want to look at SAML. You want to be really good at SAML. You need to get better at code review. You need to get better at debugging. You need to get better at scripting. You need to get better at crypto. You need to get better at XML signature. All those things that are around SAML and will enable you to find those SAML bugs.
Okay. So it's more like solving problems in time, where you try to reproduce some bug and you learn something else? Or would you like consciously sit and think, what things around the SAML I have to learn, and only then learn these things and then learn the one in the middle?
Oh, it's more like looking at other tasks around SAML, like trying to see like, what do I need to know to find things that maybe other people missed, or to be more efficient, more accurate, or do new research on that subject.
Yeah.
And often that's, okay, I need to debug and like look at a debugger for hours, looking at exactly what SAML is doing. Looking at code review for like looking at SAML source code and go like through like 10 implementations of it and things like that. And all of that are tasks that are not necessarily linked to SAML, but they will help you like go to the next level. And
yeah. So this is at this point, it's mostly just learning with the code that exists and with our experience, and it's no longer looking for resources online.
No, it's that's often when people get stuck. And that's often when people move to something else because it's hard. It's not comfortable. It's, you're wasting your time because you're like, okay, or you feel like you're wasting your time because sometimes you're going to look at something and you're not going to yield anything. You're just not going to find anything.
Yeah.
But you need to go through that journey to get better at one point. Otherwise, you just get stuck and move to like, okay, I'm going to buy another certification or I'm going to buy like a new training. But at one point, you need to like start suffering on your own, I guess.
Yeah. How should people know which is the moment to learn more advanced topics from the area we're already quite good at? And where is the time to learn something new?
I think when you start to find that all the training you can find on one topic you're interested in are things you already know, or are like small variations of something you already know, or all the research you look at is like something, okay, I didn't find it, but I could have found it because it's, now that I see it, it's obvious.
Yeah.
I never looked at that code base, but now that I read that blog post, I think I could have found that bug. And I think that's the point where you're ready maybe to like go to the next level. And to move to something else, I think it's, sometimes it's good to look at something else to get better at that initial thing as well. So if you get stuck in your journey here, like, you're learning SAML and you're like, after a while, you're getting stuck at SAML. Maybe it's time to move to something else. Maybe look at Windows Federation, for example.
Yeah.
And things like that to maybe, and then you come back to SAML and you may have like a new vision, a new way to look at things.
Yeah. How about people that think about more general topics? Let's say they feel quite good with web.
Yeah.
Of course, there's still a lot to learn because web is huge. And within web, you have small niches like you just mentioned SAML. We keep mentioning it. How do they know if they should stick with web or maybe learn Linux, learn cloud, learn things? Because I think a lot of people get to the point in their career where they are not sure if they have to learn something new to have a better resume or they should just master one area.
So I think it depends on what interests you and what's your long-term goals as well. If, let's say you're like at that level, you're pretty good, and you tell yourself like, I want to be a CISO in 10 years, or I want to be a manager in 2 years or 3 years, you probably want to look at other things.
Yeah.
If your goal is, I want to be a security researcher, or I want to go to Pwn2Own or things like that, you probably want to stick to that one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. For context of bug bounty, it's probably almost always better to specialize in a small thing as possible. Because you just need the very, I'm a very, very good example. I'm really good at web, but I don't have a lot of like cloud experience. I have never done like Windows pen testing, not even like Linux pen testing. I maybe did. Okay, I could do something, but I've never actually done a pen test on my own. So because I always knew I want to do bug bounty, and I was just learning about more and more advanced things from bug bounty, and I think for me it works really well. But I think if I were, hypothetically, if now I were to find a new job, my resume wouldn't look that impressive because there would be like web skills. Okay, they would be really strong, but then probably the company would prefer somebody that, I don't know, knows GCP and AWS and maybe a big part of like my web knowledge.
A bad manager will. A good manager will understand that your knowledge can be passed to other people in your team, and their knowledge can be passed to you.
Okay.
And that's easily to transfer that knowledge. That's a lot easier to transfer knowledge to someone who is really good in one thing and having this person transferring knowledge to other people than just having a team of people who are really average and just know the same thing.
Yeah. Do you think there are a lot of managers like this?
I hope so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not planning,
smart managers.
yeah. I'm not planning to just that's the way I think about it.
For bug bounty, it completely makes sense to invest in things. If you look at people finding good bugs, they usually spend a lot of time specializing on one or two things.
Yeah.
Like they get really good at auth. They get really good at timing issues. You need to find something that is hard. So everyone else before you gave up.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you get to like events with hacking where you just have to compete with everyone else. and you have to somehow find bugs that they didn't find, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. So that's when the fun starts, because I think it's for bug bounty, you can still earn fairly good wage for finding pretty simple bugs, but finding a lot of them on lower paying programs. But when you want to be at the events and the big public programs and things like this, we start to like need to be more specialized and detailed and things like this. So yeah, it definitely pays off in bug bounty to just be a specialist.
Definitely.
And even to the level, not only speaking about bug classes, even specialist at a particular program. There are a lot of people that are just specializing at one program, and that's a skill of its own. That's also probably fairly transferable to other things. It's not like you learn one website or one company and then the skills from this are irrelevant. But yeah, it's a very, very, very specialized industry, I would say.
Yeah, because when you're really good at these few things or these few programs, you can think in terms of patterns and then map those patterns back to other programs, other technology and things like that.
Yeah. I even thought about maybe just spending a lot of time on one of the, let's say, password managers and then trying the same things on just, 6, 7 of the most common one. And I haven't done this, but maybe I will.
That's one of the things I like to do in code review. And that's one of the things I teach is spot the difference. Like you got 2 images and you need to find like the differences between 2.
Yeah.
You take 2 code bases doing exactly the same thing and you compare them. You just read, okay, they're doing check 1, 2, 3, they're doing check 3, 4, 5. How it's that different? Does the order matter? What is the same? What is different? And it's a lot easier because you don't need to know what you're looking for. You just need to compare things.
Yeah. Are you doing it as a conscious process that you literally have 2 code bases next to each other? Really?
Yeah. Or not necessarily at the same time, except for like small snippets.
Yeah.
But like I found a bug in a session injection in Play. I was like taking the train every day to go to work, and one day I decided I'm going to look at 5 or 10 implementation of session in Java applications.
Yeah.
They all look the same, except Play. Very different. And I was like, okay, I'm going to investigate.
Yeah. And you found a bug because of this. Can you say what was the bug?
Oh, it was, so basically it's a signed session like Ruby on Rails.
Yeah.
So you can't modify the content of the session without modifying the signature. And you don't have the secret, so you can't forge a signature. But what you could do is you got like a key value in the session. You could inject in the value to add more elements in the session.
Also, you could just close out the bracket, close out the quotes.
Exactly. So they weren't using JSON, they were using their own format, and that's what the bug was.
Okay.
They were using like null byte, key, colon, value, null byte, null byte, key, another key, colon, another value.
Yeah.
And you could inject a null byte in your username, for example, and then add whatever you wanted.
Yeah, that's so nice. I had the CTF task quite similar to this some time ago. There was some very strange, also a signed session with some attributes, but also there were, the binary format had the length before the value, and you had to create, what was it? You had to, the challenge was that the app used the same private key for signing these cookies and for SSH authentication.
No.
So I had to create my own SSH challenge that would sort of match this binary format for the session. So then the process of the challenge with SSH would give me the valid signature that I could use in the HTTP request.
Nice.
It was so nice. I don't think I could ever find this without access to the source code, but it was so fun.
Yeah, that's why I like about source code review.
Yeah. What are the other bug classes that you think are quite common in the world, but are not discovered only because most people don't have access to the source code?
Missing randomness.
Yeah.
Crypto. And some level of authorization. It's interesting actually because so I'm looking at a lot of CV regularly, and one thing you never know is how the bug was found.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see bugs that are like, okay, if this person who found it using code review, that's amazing. If they found it using just like fuzzing, it's pretty boring. And you're like, I wish I knew.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame that from a lot of time, even in writeups, when somebody writes a blog post, we don't actually know how they discovered the bug. I really, really like it when somebody not only describes the bug, Shaps is really good at this, or Asset Node in general. They always write the steps, how they discovered it, how it actually works, why it works. Then they only then they get to the bug classes. It's also all with like code snippets.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really like good thing to read, but it's quite rare, no?
Yeah. Like explaining the mindset, the thought process, and all of that thing is really, really valuable.
Yeah. You also do read a lot of write-ups, no?
Yeah, a lot.
So how do you sort of optimize? Like, you know that a lot of write-ups are not really interesting for you. And I assume you just have a way to like first scan the write-up to see if it's interesting or not?
I just like read it quickly.
Okay.
Friends of mine created something named Talkback. And they aggregate write-ups and things like that, like all security research, and rate it, like automatically rate it, export like keywords using like AI and things like that. It's really, really good.
Yeah, that's nice.
And it's free. So yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the name?
Talkback.
Talkback. Okay, I will make sure to add this later to the description, because it would be really interesting for me for the case studies. Because I do also read a lot of write-ups when I do the case study, and I usually scroll to steps to reproduce, and this is like the most valuable thing of the write-up. But this is really maybe gonna really help me.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. But it's if they don't do bug bounty write-ups, they mostly do like security research.
Okay.
Outside of that, so probably not as useful, but maybe they would be happy to add it as well.
Is the tool itself public or just the database?
Just data.
Okay.
So
Maybe
it's not open source, but
maybe I can talk with them. Be really, really cool. What are other obstacles? You mentioned people don't read errors. You mentioned people don't know public and private IP addresses. What are some obstacles, maybe not as specific ones, but in general, things that they just hold people back and they can't advance or can't solve a challenge?
So I think a lot of people tend to give up at the same time. And that's very like applicable to bug bounty, is that it feels like everyone is trying, and just give up at the same time. And I see people like struggling exactly at the same point on a challenge. And there is this image of like someone digging, and there's like a diamond, and they're just like that close to like all the diamonds, and they just give up and like turn around and go back. And that's always something I have in mind when I do like research or like trying to find bugs. It's like, am I the guy like about like turning down and like being so close? And I think people need to like, okay, when they're learning, when they're trying to find bugs, when they're exploiting bugs, they need to like, okay, take a deep breath, go for a walk, come back and spend like 2 hours, 5 hours, 2 days more, and they definitely are going to find more bugs. Like everyone gave up too early.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you know you're not spending too much time on something that's not vulnerable?
You may be spending too much time, but most of the time it's worth spending too much time.
Okay.
Because no one else did.
Yeah. That's interesting. How do you have some sort of visualization of the data in PentesterLab where you see where people give up or something like this?
No, I don't have that, but I do the support, so it's pretty easy to know like exactly what's the.
So you know it from like people's messages.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that's
like,
interesting.
It's like you have people like you're so close, you're like one typo away, you're like, and yeah. But it's hard, like people get frustrated, people don't understand, people are learning, so it's hard, like learning to hack is really hard, like it's a lot of work, but most of the time it's like, yeah. And that's as well why I like to do support, is like trying to help people, but not too much, because like if you want them to remember something, you need them to have this haha moment where like, oh, I found it, and yeah.
That's always scary to me, that I will miss a bug because of a typo or something. Because, once in a while I work on something and it doesn't work. And then sometimes after an hour, for example, I notice a mistake as stupid as a typo, or just the system sometimes is random. Like yesterday I wrote a write-up where somebody had SSRF with DNS rebinding that worked 1 in 30 attempts. So, and I also had this year some bugs that like I had it was a sort of a client side bug. Okay, I can't disclose too many details, but in general, I had just had the loop that would send the same request over and over again because it would just randomly sometimes work and sometimes not with exactly the same payload. And knowing that these things happened to me and I resolved them, probably there must be things that were similarly stupid problems or randomness problems or my typo problems, and I didn't find out about them and I missed bugs because of this. This is the scary part for me.
I know a lot of people like use PentesterLab for that. Yeah. Just keep solving like the new labs all the time or go back to old labs for two things, speed and accuracy. Like getting better, like getting more accurate and getting faster.
Yeah.
And getting faster at doing the thing and also getting faster at detecting if it's not exploitable or they made a mistake.
Yeah.
And again, like reading error messages is trying to like explore behaviors to see like, am I doing it wrong or it's not exploitable?
Yeah. But with labs and with CTFs, it's that much easier that you're doing something wrong. With real world, this is the real challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
How about the challenges itself? I assume you have some stats on which are the most popular one, like most popularly solved or attempted by people. Yeah. Which are the most popular?
Or the early one and the easiest one. Yeah.
I know that probably the free ones are the most popular by numbers.
Yeah.
But out of, let's say, the paid section, what is something that people choose a lot?
So we have a path to tell people like that's the direction you should follow. So usually like people give up at one point. So that's the early one are obviously the most solved one. I think in terms of like what people really enjoy, the JWT one and the crypto one.
Yeah.
Like people look at those and it feels like magic.
Yeah, it does.
Like when you crack like a CBC or an ECB or like a CBC MAC, all these like things that are encrypted and it's like, oh, it's just like base64 random crap. And you play with that and then you get something else and people are amazed by that.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned it. I would probably say this was my favorite challenge with like one of the CBC ones because I never solved something like this in real life. I'm not a crypto guy, and just having something like this was very, very fun.
Yeah.
What, on the other hand, are there some challenges that people skip for some reason, even though they are on the path?
Not necessarily because you need to finish them to have the badge.
Okay.
I think we have like a lot of code review challenges now. And it's hard to do scoring for code review. So people often get frustrated because of that. Because what we do is we ask people like to pin like a file name and a line number and the type of bug.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not that accurate. So it's like best effort kind of thing.
Yeah.
So often like people get frustrated because they are reading source code and it's already hard. And then like, oh, it doesn't work. And but now people are pretty happy. And yeah, it's not easy. It's not like, easy. Like they are easy labs, but it's not like an easy thing to do to learn all of that. And it's a lot of content to go through. And
yeah, and then some challenges are, a few hours of work. I remember this. So to finish, are there many people that have all the challenges solved?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like I'd say probably like I know that at least like 12 to 15 people, like if there's a challenge is out, the next day it's solved.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, like loving it.
Yeah, that's nice. Congrats to you, if that's you. Yeah, also about PentesterLab, because you mentioned that you still do the customer support.
Yeah.
So you intentionally run it as a small business?
Yeah, like I think doing customer support is great because it helps me make the content better and understand what people struggle with. And I really enjoy hacking and things like that. So I enjoy doing like a lot of different things as well. So that's why keeping it small really helps. And I'm having a lot of fun. I can't believe it's my job, basically.
Are you still doing it alone or do you have some people doing it?
I have people helping me with design, with looking at CVs, like mostly like the extraction of data for CVs and things like that.
Yeah.
And
I look up to it because I think it will be easy, or a lot of people in your position, having PentesterLab be so popular, they would just try to scale it up and be perhaps more income, because it would be easy to like scale it up, be more popular, have large income, and not necessarily big profit. And I think you just run it so it's fun for you, so you don't have to have like problems of big company, and you would basically be a full-time manager if you did this. And I have a similar approach, at least at the moment, that I don't want to make the channel. I could just hire people and do different stuff and be big and publish videos every day and stuff like this. And I just don't want, so I do definitely look up to it, because I'm also happier, I think, doing this. I don't want to be the CEO. I know some people that became CEOs and they miss hacking. So I'm definitely looking up to like your approach, basically.
Yeah, I've been like a manager in a previous life, and I didn't enjoy it much. So
previous life, you now treat being employed as the previous life.
Yeah. No, but I think I have the right balance.
Yeah.
Like, it's not easy, but it's a good balance.
Yeah. Well, there's some tips to me, because I'm way younger entrepreneur than you are, so you definitely have some tips that you can give me.
Trying to have fun.
Yeah.
Because it's a long road. So if you're just in it for like making money and things like that, that's not going to work. Yeah. So you need to keep the fun. You're going to find like a lot of people who are more successful than you, doing more stuff, bigger company, more employees. Doesn't mean they are happier than you.
Yeah.
So that, because for diverse reasons, and find something that makes you happy, I think. And people like kind of feel it. I think people like PentesterLab because all people who know me know that I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I'm really passionate about it. And for example, doing security code review content is not necessarily where customers are, but it's something I really enjoy, and I think that's what matters right now for the industry and for what people should be learning. So if I were like trying to get more profit and things like that, I should probably do like some blue team content or things like that.
Yeah.
But security code review is so good.
That's so nice. What are your plans for the platform for, let's say, upcoming year?
A lot of code review. A lot of code, like every single language. I want to be able to have someone who say like, okay, I got a new job as an AppSec person in a Golang shop. So I only do Golang. I need to have this path. And say like, okay, do those those labs, and you're ready.
Okay.
And more presentation, more talks, public speaking, more training. So I do like live training now. So I really enjoy that. It's good to have like, instead of like just being in my corner, like talking to people. It's pretty hardcore, but yeah. Like, as in I did like 2 days in a row, and like the second day I could barely talk because it's like me talking for 12 hours and going through like 972 slides or something like that.
972 slides?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
In like 4 times 3 hours. So it's pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, like trying grow, but with the right clients, I think. That's what matters. And
what is a great right client?
Someone who really enjoy hacking.
Okay.
Like someone who really enjoy like technical nitpick, technical details. Someone would spend like 2 days on some little details or email me like, oh, Louis, have you thought about that? That's great. Like when I installed that lab, I thought about like this other way that you don't show in the video. Like that's amazing.
Yeah.
And having fun and But like, there's so much content I want to create. Like I want to do something, more content for beginners. Because I feel like a lot of content around beginners is not really well done.
Okay.
Like I want to approach it with more like a security engineering point of view, explaining the details. Like people teach DNS. It's interesting to teach DNS to security people, but in DNS you have like security mechanisms in place. And explaining those security mechanisms, how they work, why they are there, and things like that, to build not only the knowledge, but the threat models around technology and things like that. Okay. And same, I want to explain TLS, like the number of like infographics on TLS online that are wrong.
Really?
That drives me nuts. Like
Yeah, I wouldn't draw correct when.
Yeah, that's not a problem. Don't do infographics if you can't.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
No worries. Thank you for having me. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed it, we spoke a lot about code review. If you're inspired to do more code review, check out the episode with Shabs. That's linked in the description. And for now, thank you for listening and goodbye.